Attention, citizens. In the event of fallout, shelter immediately. Exposure levels are critical. This broadcast is amateur hour. We don't know what we're doing, but we're doing it anyway. Tune your dial to amateur_pod on all social platforms to receive further instructions.
Sorry, real quick. What is that squeaking noise?
1 second.
Okay. He's breaking his fan. It sounded like he ripped the fan. It sounded like he ripped it out of the ceiling.
It was the quickest solution.
It didn't have a pull cord or a switch or something?
I heard the pull cord and then I hear...
I panicked.
Well, we appreciate your dedication to our little podcast that you're willing to rip out a fan from your ceiling.
That's so much. I love Spider-Man. Oh, gosh. That's funny. Hey, guys. Welcome to another episode of Amateur Hour, a show where we don't know what we're doing, but we're doing it anyway. I'm one of your hosts, Jackson.
I'm your other host, David.
And we have our special guest, Morgan Boyd, on the podcast tonight. Welcome,
Hello.
Morgan.
Thank you.
Yay!
And we're excited to talk about a lot of spoilers for Spider-Man Brand New Day. That's your warning.
Yep.
If you haven't seen the movie,
It'll be
don't
your
listen
only
to this.
one.
Yeah, we're not.
Stop
we're not
listening
hold
now
hands.
and go watch the movie. And then
I'm not going to hold
back.
your hand anymore. We're spoiling everything in this movie because there's so much to talk about. So I think we should just jump right into it because I think Morgan saw it first, and then David saw it the next day, and then I saw it the day after that. William's not here; he's flying, but he might jump in at the
I saw it Thursday night.
last minute.
Did you guys?
I saw it Thursday night as well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Y'all both saw it Thursday.
So we were.
I had to
early.
wait till
Yeah.
Sunday.
I've had enough time to change my opinions since I've seen it.
Really, like pretty
Yeah.
drastically.
About one particular thing that I nitpicked in the beginning, and then at this point I've thought more about it, and I was like, no, I'm actually okay with that.
Okay, so it actually went better. It was
Yeah.
like for the better.
And I
Okay.
already liked it, so.
That's good.
I've kind of had a similar thing happen actually, which is interesting.
I've had very minute details that I'm like, okay, I could see where people would complain about this, but
So before we actually talk about Spider-Man, I want to complain about something else,
perfect.
and it's trailers. So for those of you who don't know, I've been on a crusade to avoid spoilers for things that I want to see. And so I had not seen a Avengers Doomsday trailer. Well, as I'm sitting down for the movie, I'm like, oh yeah, there are trailers. Oh, this is a superhero movie. They absolutely are going to show the trailer for Doomsday. Come to find out later from William that it was actually a brand new trailer that wasn't even seen. So it was even more spoily than the ones that I had avoided up to that point.
Brand new day,
Anyway,
brand new trailer.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not upset with the movie or the movie theater or anything about that. There's always been trailers before movies, and actually it used to be one of my favorite parts. I'm upset at the film companies who make the trailers so spoilery now that it's like I can't be surprised by anything. I know everyone who's going to be in a movie. I know any surprise characters, any surprise events. I can probably guess what's going to happen like months in advance, point for point. And I hate it. And I need them to stop. Hollywood, stop.
I do have bad news. You might have to be mad at your theater because I did not see a Doomsday trailer.
No!
I did.
I thought I was going to, and I told Abby if it shows up, I'm going to the bathroom immediately. And it didn't. It never showed up.
I don't think this one really spoils anything, though. Unless you're just... I mean, if you're living under a rock like you're intending to, then yes. If you're trying to be completely... just not know anything. I don't think it spoils a plot.
No, it doesn't spoil the plot, this one.
Yeah.
But it spoils... I don't understand the whole... We're gonna... Like, okay, Spider-Man, the last one, had two huge surprise actors in it. That, yeah, there were rumors about online, blah, 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 whatever. But they didn't put it out there. They very specifically hid that that they were going to be in it, that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire were going to be in that movie. And that was awesome to not have it confirmed. Yes, I had seen the spoilers or the rumors, but to not have it confirmed, and then they open up the little Doctor Strange bubble and Andrew walks in. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Why can't we have that all the time? Like, why do you have to tell me the entire cast of a movie like this beforehand? Like, I don't remember them doing that for the earlier Avengers movies, telling us the cast. You just kind of could assume who was probably going to be in it.
Well, it's kind
Maybe
of a
I'm
middle
wrong.
ground, though, for, you know, the selling point of, hey, here are some people you might want to see. And if you're familiar with the comics that this storyline is going to be based on at all, you know that people are coming from all different places.
Sure. And that's fine. But you don't have to tell me.
Yeah.
Okay, spoilers for if you haven't seen the Doomsday trailer. Jackson, do you need to take off your headphones?
No, I already know from the first trailer that I saw.
Okay, like, we had RDJ coming back was how they announced this movie was even happening. Everyone, I think, on planet Earth who cared about Marvel knew that. Why did you have to tell me that Chris Evans was coming back? Why couldn't that be a surprise? Like, if that was an emotional, heartfelt surprise in the moment, that would have been incredible. But now I'm thinking about how he's going to show up, why
It's
he's
more
going to
about
show
how
up.
it affects your viewing of the movie more than like,
Yes.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think this is a spoiler, but I have a theory about his presence there.
Well, I do too,
Yeah.
but I don't like that I have a theory about it.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about it for months and months and explain away everything.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to be like analyzing the movie before you see it too. That's the thing. Speaking of
I'm
all
not
that
even
too.
convinced that he's actually there. But
No, I don't think he is either. But speaking of like just Marvel as a whole, and I think this happens only with Marvel really right now. And I was thinking about this the other day about how with standalone franchises, with standalone movies and films, that you go down and go and sit for 2 hours and see like a self-contained movie with a story that has beats and a beginning, middle, and end 3-act structure. You don't have to go and worry about, oh, I really want to go see this movie. I really want to go see the new Spider-Man movie. I texted the guys about this. I was like, what do I need to watch before this Spider-Man movie? Like before,
Yeah.
the other Spider-Man
besides
movie.
the other Spider-Man movie, do I need to be venturing out and like rewatching Civil War? Do I need to watch Endgame again? Do I need to watch Infinity War again? Which I didn't end up doing. I just watched the Spider-Man trilogy with Tom Holland. But that does kind of bug me now with these particular movies. There's just so much homework you have to do.
That one I actually will praise this Spider-Man on, because I even said it to you before you went. I really think you only needed to have seen the previous Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
Yes, there were connections to other IPs in other, characters that showed up.
And if you didn't
Like
see
for that-
Thunderbolts,
I had no idea Florence Pugh was going to be in this movie. That was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't like add a ton, but they didn't plaster everywhere, hey, the new Black Widow is going to be in this Spider-Man movie, bringing her nice comedic lift to what could be a very tense moment.
but on the other side of that coin, Florence Pugh being the new Black Widow, Abby has not seen Thunderbolts. She didn't know why Florence Pugh was in this movie. She knew she was a character, but she was like, Florence Pugh is the new Black Widow? I was like, yeah, and I kind of had to explain to her about what happened in Thunderbolts after the movie. But so there's still little like pieces here and there that you have to do your homework on.
For that one, yes, you really even
you would have
needed
to
like
seen Black
Widow
for that one.
and then
She did see Black
the
Widow.
Hawkeye show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my point is like it is just an interesting. This is like a whole different thing. Like you have regular self-contained movies. This is very understood. I'm not saying anything new, but it's just a little bit frustrating that you have to do prerequisite things before seeing major motion pictures that have to do with Marvel.
Yeah, and my counterpoint to you was only to say I was impressed with how little of that they had in this specific movie,
sure.
because it could have been
It could have been way
so
worse.
much worse.
On the opposite side, I do relate to that, but this is just an introduction to a new thing that's existed in other media before now.
Yes.
Like books have always been that way, where you have to read an entire book, which is a lot more work than watching a movie to understand any book that it has any relevance to afterwards. We don't usually have a lot of like multiversal types of books.
Mhm.
Like you can read maybe Stephen King stuff and see, oh, there's a reference to one of his other things in this book because he does that all the time. But it's not a continuous through storyline. But that's existed for a long time before we've been doing it with movies. So in some ways, it's like a reward for some people, while it simultaneously is an annoyance to others. But it's not necessarily new.
Yeah, I could see that side of it being like a reward for true fans and stuff. And even when people make tiny references or writers make tiny references to other things, that you're like, oh, I got that because I watched all these other movies. But I think there is a threshold.
Yes.
And if you go past it, it's just difficult.
There is a threshold. There's also
with kids and families. It makes it more difficult.
Sure. Yes, exactly. But I do think in multiple mediums, like across all media forms, we've started to go towards trying to make the barrier to entry so low and so generic that you lose your core fan base. And so I do think, like, the earliest thing I think back to this was like the Spider-Man and X-Men cartoons in the 90s, when they would cross over on Fox Kids, I think was where those aired. And then the Batman and Superman and Justice League Unlimited crossover stuff on the WB. And I was like, this is amazing that they're crossing over and things matter in multiple shows. And yeah, that happens all the time now. And you are 1,000% right. There's a threshold, but
It's just
I like encouraging them to do it. Yeah. It's cool. Yeah. Speaking of cool, you want a cool fact about this movie? A fun fact? This doesn't affect the movie in any particular way. But so Tom Holland, when he got, I think it was his first big acting gig. No, I think it was just his first movie at all. It was called The Impossible. We've talked about this briefly before, that it's a really fun movie. Well, fun's the wrong word. It's a really good movie. It's not a fun movie. But he's a kid in this movie, and his father's played by Ewan McGregor. His mother's played by Naomi Watts. And I didn't realize this till later, but Naomi Watts in this movie plays Evie, his AI assistant that he has built. And so his first movie, his mom is now his assistant as Spider-Man.
That is really cool.
First and last movie currently, we're both with her in it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that. So let's get into this movie, Spider-Man Brand New Day. I immediately, upon entering this movie, knew that this was going to be like a much grittier and darker movie, just by the tone, like the tone of the first couple of scenes. I really enjoyed the way it was shot. It's not a high school kid, doing his thing and going on field trips anymore. It's like Spider-Man being thrown into the real world. And I really liked, just immediately, I leaned over to Abby and I was like, this is going to be way different. I love this already. I really enjoyed the tone that they set at the beginning, even with the cinematography. Not as bright, not as colorful. He's in gritty New York. He's a grown-up now.
Yeah, I agree. And the visual colors were a good indicator of that, which I liked the less saturated colors for this in particular, because you still had pops of it with his suit and some other places, but I felt like it was a good through line for the same intent. Was visually you're getting that cue right away, and I mean, I'm going to have a lot to say about the structure of this movie and the themes in this movie, because there are three distinct themes that I'm just like so
Let's
glad
go.
this movie touched on. but um, but since we're starting at the beginning, we'll start at the beginning. The intro, like the intro with all the references to the some of the iconic comic covers.
Yeah,
Loved
Oh
that.
yeah.
That was so cool.
with the
I
freeze
mean, I
frames.
saw that in the trailer already, so I knew that was coming. But I just thought that was such a clever use of showing that we don't have to know everything specific about what the Spider-Man has gone through. We don't have to. We're going to see that he already has a relationship with Scorpion. We already see all this stuff. Great idea for this. We don't need to see like every step of the process, but that intro did that so effectively. Showed how many people he'd been up against, all these struggles. Showed basically the intent was to show us how busy he has been being Spider-Man and not Peter. And I just thought it was so well done. And I don't remember what the music choice was for it because I didn't take anything to write down my notes. But whatever it was, I was like, this fits so well. This is great.
Yeah, I loved the opening sequence, and I was nervous that they were going to pick up like, months or something after the end of the last one. And I mean, they sort of did with the intro, but I mean, that's like 5 minutes long that they condense 4 years of in-world time into, and I loved that.
I love
because
that too.
I really think we needed that space to breathe narratively before being able to really thrust with some true weight behind it the problems that Peter was having, and I expected it to just be off screen, but seeing it in those flashes worked much better than I would have guessed it could have. I was very impressed.
I loved the way they handled the passage of time at the beginning with him alone, isolated in his little spider cave, and he's basically watching the world go by, his world, which is his friends that he doesn't have anymore. He's just on social media, like watching them grow, watching them go to college, watching them graduate college, while he's simultaneously, we're watching him be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and like really just rooting himself into his work.
I remember the last time I was on one of these for the previous standalone Spider-Man movie, and I said this is exactly where we need Peter to be, depressed, alone in his own apartment, because this is the best way to really explore what Spider-Man is. Because Spider-Man is heroic in spite of his circumstances, and this is where he has to start, and he has to be having a bad time because that's Spider-Man's story. That's what happens to him. He's never having a good time. And and I remember thinking as this movie began, I remembered that time that I said that on the podcast before.
Yeah, I remember you saying that about the ending of No Way Home.
Mm-hmm.
And it made it, the way they did it made the isolation theme of the movie, we can get into Morgan's themes as well, it made it feel meaningful to the story and not just like, okay, here's Spider-Man and we're picking up in like a random time in his life. And I feel like that it's underappreciated. That part of it is underappreciated because I think they could have done it in a way that would have been jarring and bad.
Yeah, we were introduced to characters that he already had a relationship with, and we were still vicariously exploring the world through the protagonist by discovering not what he has already discovered, but us discovering the relationships that he already had, which I think was a more satisfying experience for the viewer.
Yeah. So, Morgan, let's talk about some of the themes of this movie. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. So,
one of the surface themes, obviously, is metamorphosis that was talked about from the very beginning. You saw this sort of... This is going to be actually the smallest theme that I think exists in this movie compared to the others. So, the metamorphosis was a theme for him through physically this thing is happening to him where he is changing, where the DNA inside of him, the spider DNA, is having a stronger effect than his human DNA, and it's threatening to change him in ways that he's not necessarily wanting to happen. He's very resistant to change. He's never even showing that he really wants any part of that. He's resistant to anything different than what has been working for him for the past 4 years, and that's an important thing to identify. When we consider what we'll talk about later, I assume, with some of the main antagonist in this movie, metamorphosis, I think, is long term going to be a big part of the theme that we touch on there. But that's the smallest one, and we'll talk more about that, I'm sure. But the other two are friendship is a huge theme in this movie, and especially the struggle against wanting to be close to people, for sure. But I think friendship is also the very end point of this movie in one of the most beautiful ways that I've ever seen a film end of this nature. But I think the most important and the most compelling thing that I witnessed in this movie that happened with at least 4 characters is the struggle against oneself. And Peter's struggle is that he cannot be Peter. He's viewing a version of Peter's life from the inside out that he could have had, that he did have once. It's been taken away, and his struggle is between that and the spider, his work that he's threatening to become more like all the time, because it has to burgeon out of him, essentially. But you also see this. There is a point in which the Hulk is involved in this movie, who is a great example of a character who has something in them that is trying to get out and is attempting, that you're struggling against yourself to keep that thing inside. And even the way that we have some resolution with the Hulk at the end of the scene, where the Hulk gives up on, basically, he's about to kill Spider-Man, until this is one of the few times in this movie where you see through the lenses and the goggles, and you can tell that the Hulk and Banner inside the Hulk, and this is important because Banner inside the Hulk is the one that responded to seeing the eyes of Peter through the goggles. This is one of the only scenes where you can actually see his eyes through the goggles. And he's seeing him, and he's recognizing the person inside the monster is being recognized by the person inside the monster. Arguably, it might also be Hulk that's seeing him.
That's so interesting. I did not think of it that way, but go on.
Right. And so this is the thing that causes him to relent. And I think it's the Hulk, probably the Hulk and Banner, that are kind of like, okay, I'm going to relent now, and I'm just going to let go, and I'm going to fall off this building and revert, or whatever happens to me. The other thing, the most obvious person, because so far you've got 3 people that have a beast inside, well, 2 people that have like a beast inside of them, and one, if you consider his beast to just be anger and futility, the Punisher. He is always a character that's going to be associated with a struggle against himself. And especially if you watched, you can see in all the shows, every show that the Punisher was in, whether it's his own show or Daredevil Born Again, or his own standalone movie, he's got this tendency to like see things that aren't there, that he's memorying. He's got PTSD. He's visualizing people that aren't there, sounds that aren't there, etc. He's hallucinating. He has this struggle against himself, against his own mind, his own wants. He considers what he is. He says it in this movie to be a prison. It's a sentence that he has to do this. He doesn't want to do this. He has to. So it's really interesting, and I think this is going to be related to the friendship theme, that we see a very different version of Punisher through this movie than we've ever seen before. And this is the thing that I was nitpicking about a lot before, and I've come around to it, and I'm like, I think we needed this with him. And I'll explain more of that later as we explore the friendship angle. And then lastly, this is a huge spoiler right here for anybody that doesn't know who the main antagonist of this movie is. Jean Grey is in this movie, and this is also a really good example of somebody struggling against themselves. Every single one of these characters is dealing with anger and fear on some level. And fear being a primary emotion that generally leads to anger, in many psychological senses. They're dealing with this, and she's struggling with I'd argue that it might be harder to see this one directly, but I think that she's also somebody that's going to be struggling with herself, at least in the future from this point on. I think she was very clearly, she thought that she was struggling against something specific. And I think now where she is, it is going to be a struggle in the future to deal with everything that she just did.
Yeah, but it was an external struggle. She had somewhere to direct her anger at one point, and now it is very internal.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that struggle against oneself was very prominent in this film.
Yeah, and I think all four of them are at very different spots on the spectrum of dealing with that, internalizing it, dealing with it externally, embracing it. It's a good swath to be able to explore and have them all come to different endings, but also similar conclusions, like of where they are now on that journey compared to where they were when they started, which is interesting. You said about John Bernenthal's Frank Castle that we had never seen that before. Were you talking about specifically his adaptation of The Punisher or The Punisher in media in general?
I meant in Brand New Day, for all of his version of the character, I felt like he was different in this movie than he's been in pretty much every way. And I think the reason is he has a soft spot for kids. It's like the only thing that can soften him. And we see from the very beginning, he's referring to Peter as a kid. Like somehow he knows. We know that by the end of the movie, he didn't know what his identity was before, but he refers to him as kid from the beginning. He even changes his language in some really kind of funny ways in the beginning. He calls him dum-dum, right? At the beginning of one of these things. I think he knows he's a kid. And I think that's one of the reasons that he interacts with him in the way that he does. They clearly have a history. Something happened on Staten Island. And
I love that we never got an explanation.
Yeah, I think this is going to be like the Black Widow and Hawkeye and not Bangladesh or Beirut. Where was it?
Was it Bangladesh?
I don't remember.
But anyway.
But yeah, so at first I was like, this version of the Punisher feels weird to me. He's doing things that I don't think of this version of John Bernthal's version doing. And then you got glimpses of it, glimpses of what I'm used to. And then every once in a while I'd be like, this feels a little silly for him. And then now that I have a lot of perspectives. I could probably talk a whole podcast about some of the external to the movie world reasons that I think some of that stuff happened. But by the time it ends, I think the reason that it makes sense to me is because one of the themes in this movie is friendship and how important it is. One of the earliest moments that I thought was really rewarding, if you've watched Thunderbolts, is... So I guess this will be slightly spoilery for Thunderbolts. I don't know if that's something we want to avoid.
It's fine.
Nah, go
it's
for
been out
it.
a while.
So Thunderbolts clearly has a theme about shame. And from the very beginning, everything is about shame and having community to overcome and go through shame. That's a through line in that movie. Yelena comments, Yelena of all people who started that movie depressed and full of shame, in this movie is very excited to see that Peter has friends at one point. And I thought it was really cool that Yelena was the character that points that out, because this was an example of somebody that had found that. And now she's saying that this is a good thing. I'm glad you found that. I thought that was really neat. So
I think she's like, oh, Sad Man has friends now.
Yeah, right. And so you see that he wants this friendship with his, actually he wants MJ. He seems to really want MJ and to return to a friendship. And by the end of this movie, he does not get MJ back in the way that he wanted. But the very last scene is so beautiful, because the thing that if the indications are there, and if this is what this really means by the end of the scene, this entire spell that changed the entirety of the world was
of the multiverse
about Peter's identity was not strong enough to break the bond of friendship that just happened with their secret handshake that seems to be reminding Ned of Peter. And that is so beautiful to me. And starting from where he is at the beginning of this movie to where he is at the end. And one of the things that happens right before that, the Punisher refers to him in non-committal words as a friend.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And this through line is that by the end of the movie, the thing that he lacked, that he needed, he gave to Jean. He gave her friendship that calmed her down, that helped her. And he was told by the person that is probably the hardest person in the whole MCU to have a friendship with, views him as a non-committal words friend. And then
As a Ron Swanson friend, my work acquaintance.
Yes. And then you have Ned Leeds remembering what nobody else could just because their friendship is so strong. I thought it was just beautiful.
I commented to Abby that actually we always talk about like, oh, what was your favorite part of the movie? That's like a pretty common thing to do after a movie. And I was like, honestly, one of my favorite parts of this movie was when MJ takes him back to the apartment to meet Ned, and they're just hanging out doing Legos together and making Lord of the Ring references. That part of the movie was such a great payoff for the struggle that you saw Peter going through. And you see that he's like starting to again have some connection, some human connection as himself. He's dressed as Spider-Man, but he's acting like himself because he's around people he's so comfortable with, even though they have no idea really who he is. And he's able to like let loose a little bit and do the things that he loved and he remembers being a part of when they did remember him. And that was a beautiful scene. I was like smiling the whole time, ear to ear. And hey, William. William's joining us.
I'm recording now, by the way.
Okay, great. So yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes because of how, I don't know, you're just, obviously you're rooting for Spider-Man. You're rooting for Peter the whole time because this is who we're here to see. This is like, it's our boy Spider-Man. And he's just in a deep depression. And then like everybody can relate to like being in some way being isolated and then finding like your tribe of people.
The visual tone inside the house when that was happening too was much brighter than any other point of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. It was beautifully done. And now Morgan has brought up so many things that we have to go back on, but go ahead, David.
I was just going to say if I were picking a favorite scene, it's incredibly hard because there were so many really, really good ones. But I think maybe it was William had seen the same video I did on YouTube several weeks ago that was going over like, it was like a video essay basically of like why this adaptation of Spider-Man has been so different and what felt off about it. But from the perspective, it had been, apparently, I hadn't been following this creator and I can't remember who it was. But it appeared to me like this creator had been nitpicking them for years. And in the lead up to this one, like went back and rewatched them again and something clicked then he made this video and it was that this felt weird because there were never any stakes, any real stakes for Spider-Man in the first three. He just constantly had someone huge in his corner to bail him out. And he wasn't, even though technically he and May were poor, they weren't really struggling for money. I mean, he didn't have to use his own suit. He was using suits made by Stark. And then, I mean, in the second one, they made him remake his own suit, but still with Stark tech. And then the third one, you know, he tries to eat his cake and have it too when he's having this memory spell cast, which is kind of the impetus for the whole plot of the movie, is that he wants to have everything. And so he just keeps throwing out changes after changes after changes to the spell while it's being cast. And all of those things that had been frustrations to him about, like we were saying earlier, the core of Spider-Man is struggle. I mean, that's where his story begins, really, in basically all other media of him, other than these 3 Sony and Marvel movies leading up. And they finally said, okay, I get it now. It was a 3-movie origin story that we had to give him everything to make the struggle really matter when we took it away. And they did a fantastic job in almost always paying that off with this one. And they can continue to pay it off in that they did now truly hit you in the gut and make you have to deal and live with this new reality that Peter lived in. And I say all that to build up to my favorite scene was when he is remembering Aunt May sitting down and talking with him. That was, and then putting Jean Grey in that same moment in his place and then chatting with her afterwards. That extended series of scenes that aren't actually all at the same moment, but the combination of those hit so home because the lesson of the 3rd movie and his journey was you do the right thing because it's right, not because of the results you get. And even as she died at the hands of Goblin, she was encouraging him in the moment, telling him this wasn't a mistake. We did the right thing. Don't lose that. Keep doing the right thing. And Peter has been trying to do that, but it was kind of like Morgan talked about earlier, completely devoid of anything for himself. He was completely self-sacrificial. And so finding that's the solution to that being the people and the friends that we make along the way and how we can be burdened together through the hard moments of life. And that's what kind of makes it bearable, was so beautiful. And when Jean starts crying as Marissa Tomei's talking to her as Aunt May, so good. And I could gush about that whole sequence for a very long time.
Yeah. I liked what you said about the origin story stuff, and that triggered a thought that, to me, and this might be completely off base, but to me, this Spider-Man, obviously we never got an origin for Tom Holland's Spider-Man, which I was fine with because we know this origin of Spider-Man, and we didn't really need that for this. But to me, this movie, Brand New Day, felt like a re-origining of Tom Holland's Spider-Man because of the themes of the movie, because we're finally seeing him, like you said, have everything taken away from him and having to, this theme of metamorphosis, as Morgan brought up, he is on his own, he's becoming his own person, and also internally and externally struggling with everything around him. And to me, it felt like a true origin story for his Spider-Man, which I really liked, and I was surprised by, because we've had 3 movies with him already, plus all the other ones that he's been in that are not his specific
I think
movies.
He was in
and I
6 movies before this.
Yeah, so it felt like a re-origining. Like I said, that's not a word, but I'm coining it now, and it felt like, okay, this is it for this Spider-Man.
Well, it felt like one thing that I think I liked about this was, in Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, I think did a good job of this, but I wish it would have continued, was the buildup of the character and the relationships that it had, and then they take that character away, but then we don't get another movie to see how he deals with it. And so I really enjoyed this one because you see it being taken away from him. You see his family, his friends, literally everyone in the world who knows him and loves him is taken away from him, and then you get to see how he deals with it. Whereas, I guess Tobey Maguire loses Uncle Ben, but we don't really get to see that relationship develop either. It happens in the very beginning of the movie. We don't see their relationship. It doesn't seem like they have as much of a father-son relationship. It really seems more like not a distant relative, but it doesn't seem like as close of a relationship as it should have been for it to really have that impact. But then throughout the rest of the series, he doesn't really lose anyone else. He almost loses, like he does lose a friend later on, but it's like we don't really get to see the buildup of those characters. And then like Andrew Garfield's, you see the relationship with Gwen Stacy blossom throughout the first movie and the second movie, and then you get the loss, but then there's nothing else afterwards because it got canceled. Whereas this one, you see the relationship build up through all of these different movies. You see, how close he is with Ned. You see how close he is with his aunt. You see how close he is with MJ. And then you get it taken away, and then you get to see the follow-up of that. I thought that was great. And it's something we haven't been able to see in a live-action movie before with Spider-Man.
We just love seeing Spider-Man suffer.
We do? No, but that's the
Yeah, we're horrible
That's what
people.
Spider-Man does.
That's what it is.
Well,
I'm just
and
saying. That's hyperbolic,
one of
but
the-
it's true.
I'm honestly glad that no one got the memory back in this movie, because I think
Yeah.
if they would have done that, like that's what we want to see, right? We want to see it happen, but I'm glad that they didn't do it, because prolonging the suffering and making it a little bit more real and like actual real life consequences, real life, because magic, so not real life, but you know what I mean. Like you see the actual consequences of the actions that Spider-Man had, the choices he had to make, and they don't just immediately like redo it.
Hear that, Hollywood?
kinda-
Don't give us what we want. That's not what we want.
Well, it's like
No,
it's
I
like,
understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
I had
it's
that
like
thought in the
Infinity
moment
War.
when Jean was possessing him or possessing her, and you had that whole fake out moment.
Oh my gosh.
In that moment when I didn't even know that it was fake yet, I had suspicions, but I wasn't sure, and so I was just letting the moment happen.
It was so different than everything else that had happened.
Yes. But anyway, I was so conflicted in my mind as it was happening, being like, I would love for this to happen. Also, I hate it.
Yeah.
And then that really was what even led me to being like, okay, this isn't real. There's no way. And then I started seeing, as Morgan said, and be like, okay, this is not how MJ ever acts. Not this version of MJ.
You know what my first indication that it was fake was? When he was swinging her around in the city
and she wasn't freaking out.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
She was afraid of heights.
Same.
I
that
also
was so
clocked that
good.
as very weird.
I looked at Amy and I said, "That's not her." She was like, "What do you mean?" But yeah, no, I was going to be upset if that is how they did it. Like again, part of me would have been like, "Oh, thank goodness he finally has somebody again." But I'm so glad they didn't do that.
Yeah,
because that would have been fan service that didn't hold up. So like,
yes.
One thing I wanted, I don't know if you guys talked about this already, but like No Way Home was such a fan service movie, and in the moment I loved it. Like it's absolutely amazing. It brought all the childhood memories back. But then rewatching it, it's still good, but it's not as good as it could have been because it was all fan service.
Yeah,
and if they would have
100%.
done that with this movie, it would not have been very good. And I think even rewatching this movie years later, I'm still going to think that this is the best out of the four because they didn't just give us fan service. This was actual story, actual plot, and making the consequences of his life real.
It was an intelligent story. It wasn't.
Yes.
Yeah. It wasn't trying to.
it wasn't pandering.
It felt more like art than just a movie. And
it wasn't talking down to us as an audience. Yes. Yeah, it was very relatable. And one of the things I didn't expect at all was his relationship with Detective Jean DeWolf, played by Liza Collins Zayas. I've seen her in like lots of Law and Order things, but never beyond that. She did fantastic in this. But I liked the way that they showed him reacting differently than Andrew said. We never got to see it, but said he did in the last movie of that he got rageful after losing not MJ,
Gwen.
Gwen, thank
The
you.
best
And
Spider-Man
so I was
love
glad
story,
I was glad to see him not react that way and instead doing the basically I'm not taking care of myself thing. Like I'm so in here. But when he was Spider-Man, he was still quick-witted and fun-loving and interacted with kids funny and just truly was all bought in. He didn't go down some kind of deep, dark, depressive hole, at least not entirely. I mean, he was kind of there, but he didn't let that affect how he acted as Spider-Man, which was, again, I thought that was an intelligent choice.
I mean, there were scenes that suggested that rage, right? Like with his fight
Sure.
with Scorpion, where he was doing that, and I think that was part of the point. But I think that speaks to the struggle against the self that we see in these four phenomenal characters. Every single one of them are isolating characters, and that was Spider-Man Peter's issue here. And it was making a connection between anger and frustration and isolation. And I think that was very intentional with this movie. Is the Punisher is isolated because he feels like that's the thing he has to do. It's a sentence. He described it as that. Peter's doing this because he feels like he has to do it to protect the people he loves. Jean Grey has nobody. Nobody understands her because she's like this. We have to make some assumptions about some of her thoughts. And the Hulk in particular, not Bruce Banner, the Hulk. But Bruce Banner has an experience isolating himself, but they're two different characters. And
kind of three.
Yeah, a little bit. But I think that's an intentional thing because that was a theme for him, and the characters they chose to put in this movie reflected that same struggle against the self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about Hulk.
Yeah.
I liked. This is the first time since Ultron that we have seen Hulk rage and do damage. He like in the Thor movie, whatever it was called, the third one, Ragnarok. Yeah, he was Hulk, and he was that rage Hulk, but he was kind of in a decently adjusted, and his world and life he had kind of built around himself allowed him to be that without causing actual pain and destruction. And so, one, I didn't even really ever clock that we had kind of lost that side until seeing it again. So that was cool. And two, this was one of the things I grew on a lot. I hated the way that they showed all three sides of Bruce Banner / Smart Hulk / Rage Hulk in this movie. I hated all of it at first, and this was one I came around to as I started thinking about it more. And when Bruce is being wheeled, it's a blink and you miss it moment, but when Bruce is being wheeled into like the van to go to the hospital or whatever after he has changed back from being Rage Hulk, he is like freaking out about the fact that he has damaged things, maybe injured people. Did I do all of that? And in the moment, I was like, dude, pull yourself together. Like, you're an Avenger. You have fought, I mean, essentially gods of different worlds and prevailed. Get it together, dude. Like, you're a professional. And then I remembered he hadn't done that in like a decade of our time. And in their time, it's like 17 years or something. Like, he hadn't lost control in that way in so long that it felt very impactful. And I also didn't like the way they did Smart Hulk in this one, of being able to like go back and forth with the inhibitor. And I still don't love the like technicalities of it, but they did, whether it was good and I loved it or not, for the first time flesh out a little bit what Smart Hulk even is, because we were given like nothing about that. It was just there.
Didn't they talk about that in
Endgame?
She-Hulk?
No, not
Kinda
really.
go over-
They like
they did.
they again kind of brushed over like, yeah, I did some sciencey thing and now we're cool. Which was dumb. But I really, really wish that Hulk could get real character growth. And I think this was the closest to real character growth that Bruce Banner and the Hulk has had in the entire MCU. So I at least have to give it the nod for that, of They did, even if I didn't love all parts of it,
there
they
was some in
did
Thor
try to
Ragnarok.
do stuff.
Yeah, but you didn't really see it get to the point that it got in Ragnarok. I think what we really need is an opportunity to see Banner and Hulk interact with each other in some way, and that would be a really something that I think we
were supposed to have in Infinity War, and they cut it out, which
Yeah.
is awful. But
So staying on Hulk for just a minute, like there was a point where he said that she, being Jean Grey, broke something inside of him, like that was this, which is why he was like raging out, sort of like he was raging because he was angry, but there was also like that element of she broke something inside me, and that's why in this moment I am doing this, which I thought was interesting. And I want to hear y'all's thoughts on that. But something else that Morgan brought up earlier with the fact that Hulk or Bruce saw Peter's eyes through the mask and saw his humanity inside before deciding not to crush him into oblivion. Do you think it was that specifically, or was it the fact that it's possible that Hulk himself, not Banner, but Hulk remembers who Peter Parker is? Because he hasn't been Hulk.
I've seen
so
that
long.
rumor.
I mean, because the reason I think that, I thought that in the moment too, is because you can see Hulk's face like completely
recognition.
change. Yeah, it's recognition. It's not, oh, this is a human. It's because that doesn't make sense why Hulk would just randomly be like, oh, this is a human. Like, he didn't care. He smashes anything. But you see the reaction, the expression in his face that, oh, this is someone different. And I feel like I
And my
recognize
friend.
this person.
Because he says, "Hey, I'm your friend," and it's Peter.
And he says earlier to Bruce pieces together based on the circumstances of something that Peter says, that he's like, oh, this is that same kid. Spider-Man is that same kid that visited me at the college, because there's some language that he uses that connects them, and he has this reaction.
Oh, I
like,
didn't catch that.
oh, this could be that same kid, because he was talking about the intensity of the inhibitor, universal inhibitor. He uses the phrase universal inhibitor, and then Bruce Banner recognizes that, and he has this look like he knows something.
Well, and also,
which is one of the reasons that I think that it could be played either way, that either the Hulk recognizes him, or since that is the only time you see the eyes through the lens, there might be one other scene where you also see that, because I seem to remember that. But
they show it to you a couple times to show him black his eyes when he's doing the metamorphosis thing, but that's it.
But that's why I think it could be either the Hulk or Bruce that was responding
also, Hulk
to
was
that moment.
Suppressed when he snapped the memories away. from
Exactly.
people. So if Hulk was suppressed at the time, does the spell count towards him and his memory?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That
Which
was
is
my
why-
point. It's speculation at this point, but I thought it was very interesting that would be a possibility.
There was something that David said that it reminded me. You were talking about your favorite scene being the one where Aunt May is in there talking to Peter, and then you have the moment where Jean is in there because she's in his head and she's talking to Aunt May. And I think it relates to that whole thing of like getting, friendship. Peter goes into friendship, but the first thing with Aunt May talking to her is more of like a mentor type situation. And the reason I think that's important is because mentorship has been such a big theme in the previous three movies. At the first one, you have Iron Man as a mentor, then you have Mysterio as a mentor, and then you have a mix of other Spider-Men as mentors and Aunt May as a mentor. And you have this theme, and then now Spider-Man transitioning into not being the kid he is anymore. This is where he's functionally an adult now. This is where, instead of mentorship, suddenly I guarantee you the next two movies are going to be based on his friendships, because that is that is a theme right now. And he's replacing that need for the mentorship with these connections with people that he has, these strong connections that are not from the top down, but unilateral. And I think that was sort of an interesting, whether it's intended or not, no idea, but it starts with Aunt May giving some mentorship thoughts and advice to Jean, and then Peter going to her as a friend. So first the talk about responsibility, and then the talk about community, basically, and then being with people, and then sharing the burden so that it's not as burdensome to you because other people want to share it.
Jackson, I have a question specifically for you. Were you able to stay in your chair during Keith David's scene?
What?
Keith David narrates the spider video that he's watching. And
am I supposed to know who that is?
Keith David? Yeah, he's like the recognizable voice guy. He's in the last season of Community.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, immediately
I was squirming a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think I don't think it was William. It was someone else that we both mutually know. But we was asking me like, do you think he's going to be able to stay still during that scene, or is he going to like flee the theater? Because it was pretty gruesome for a spider scene.
I was probably sitting there like this. Yeah, that was a little disturbing, but I got through it. I think we need to talk about. We're deep in this, guys. We need to talk about Jean Grey. Sadie Sink did an incredible job.
Yeah,
I was pretty sure she was going to be Jean Grey just because of all the rumors. I think that was the most likely scenario, bridging the gap and bringing the quote-unquote mutants into the MCU, which they never use that word, by the way. The word mutant does not appear in the script, which I thought was interesting.
Was the same for the previous use of mutants in the MCU.
Yeah, they're continuing
Miracles
it, which I think is
was
interesting.
the word they used before.
How did you guys feel about like visually, like when we started to see the powers of Jean Grey manifest in?
I thought the jumping was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
visually it was awesome.
Yeah,
as soon as we knew she was actually Jean Grey for sure, I was like, I don't know that I love this anymore because of how weird and restrained her power was. But they paid it off when having that metamorphosis moment that Morgan talked about. So that was one. I didn't even have to like later think about it. I just had to let the movie play the whole thing out, and then it was like, okay, never mind. This is cool.
Yeah, the whole 33-foot thing.
If you use that exactly, if you use any kind of like mystical element in a movie or show or book or whatever it is, having it more of like a hard magic system is appealing to me, where I want to know the rules about how it works, so I know the limitations. And I felt like it immediately gave so many indicators about there are rules and limitations to this. She couldn't get into Peter's head at first, for instance. There were things that could happen and things that couldn't. And I thought visually, first off, it was just really cool to see the jump. You knew exactly what was happening, and it was weird and it was creepy and it was an invasion of privacy in like a kind of way.
Yeah,
but as part of the plot device, it was awesome.
It was great.
I really enjoyed it because it was so simple. Like there wasn't a lot of VFX involved in this. There was really good extras and actors that they had doing this very violent movement to indicate that she was body jumping through people's minds, essentially. And I loved how simple it was and how effective it was and how creepy it was all at the same time.
Did anybody else think when she threw MJ off the building that we were legitimately getting another Andrew Garfield love interest moment and this was her end?
Nah, I never thought she was going to die.
I knew they were playing into that, but
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So my thought was, I was surprised they were able to bring her back for this one. Like I thought she's a huge actress now.
Zendaya?
I didn't.
She's also married to Spider-Man.
Yeah, she's married to Tom.
Yeah, I know, but that doesn't
it was
mean
probably not hard to get a hold of her.
Her asking price goes down necessarily.
No, she actually dropped her asking price so that they could get Mark Ruffalo as a main character. So she
good on her.
Dropped her price.
So she was just like in it for the story.
Main character. So
okay,
the money's going to them either way.
Well, anyway, I was thinking, okay, they got her for this one. They're going to shut the door permanently. And so when she got thrown off, I was like, and they even shot it the same way. Like the fall, her looking up as they did in the previous movie, which was them redoing the Gwen fall. And so when he actually wrapped her up the same way that Andrew did, I was like, oh, thank goodness.
I think they did. It was one of the only ways to actually make the audience feel like there was danger to her, I think, probably. Because you can only do so much at a certain point. It's like what they did something in The Walking Dead at one point where
Yes.
Glenn was supposedly dead, but it turned out it was just sort of a perspective issue, and he wasn't. And that made everybody think that he was safe, and then they killed him.
Yeah.
But not that they'll necessarily do the same thing, but I think you have to play with the audience's expectations of what is familiar sometimes to make it seem like there's a stake.
Why do you think, going back to Jean Grey's powers, I saw when she at first tried to get into Spider-Man's mind and couldn't. I personally believe that he let her in the last time.
Yes.
Agreed.
I think it's very interesting that Spider-Man specifically is very resistant to other people's powers. You saw that in No Way Home with Doctor Strange when his soul was separated from his body and he was still able to, whether it was just his body doing the spider sense thing, he was able to avoid Doctor Strange getting the little cube out of his hand. And I think I haven't seen that a lot besides maybe like Scarlet Witch because she's so powerful.
You see it also in Infinity War when it takes him longer to like blip
out
because his
That's
body's
a good point.
like pulling
I didn't even
himself
think about
together.
that. Yeah, what do you guys think of that?
He can feel
I don't
it
really
coming. Like
Yeah,
he knows
yeah,
it's
yeah.
happening before it actually happens.
I just find it very interesting that he specifically is so resistant to other powers. Does anybody have a?
Because he's awesome, dude.
I mean, I know he's awesome, but like,
Because he's
is there
I
any
think it's
theories?
supposed to
probably
be
the most powerful being besides Scarlet Witch.
I don't know about that, but I was gonna say his spider sense. I think it's intended to be a growth of that, like a side effect of his spider sense, and especially now that his spider sense is like Superman level hearing and attention to what's going on, even potentially more. But I haven't read tons of the comics around Spider-Man, so if any of you guys have, correct me on this if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that as the comic run of Spider-Man went on, it was very clear pretty early on that he couldn't hang with a lot of the Avenger level, both heroes and villains. And then something happened. I don't remember what it was. It actually might have been Secret Wars. I don't remember for sure. You discover it's because he's been pulling his punches, essentially. Like he is so concerned about doing the right thing and that beaten down mentality, but still standing up anyway, that he just doesn't unleash. And he actually is not one of the most powerful in the Marvel universe, but is like way beyond what the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man persona was for a long time.
Yeah. Oh, there's a few. There are so many different versions of canon for what any MCU version of Spider-Man might have, and one that this storyline was kind of based on with the transmutation of his body is based on one where there is essentially a ancient spiritual spider being that he's taken the mantle of. I don't know if that they're going that direction. They took a lot of inspiration here. I think, if anything, this would take way too long to explain. I think there are connections between Kafka's Metamorphosis and this movie and some of the inversions of it. But
okay, we'll do a whole episode on that because that sounds super interesting to me.
So it's
you're free next week, right?
Get an annotated version of Kafka's Metamorphosis, the book, in which a guy just wakes up to find he's turning into a bug and he repulses everyone. But yeah. And then you might see some of the points that I think are kind of interesting about what could have happened in this movie and what did not happen by the end.
Interesting. I like that. Yeah, I was just curious about that because it's something I noticed with him. And with my biases of I think Spider-Man is the best, I just think he's the best superhero and he's probably the strongest. But I wanted to see if you guys had any theories on why it's so difficult.
Beat up your Spider-Man.
Exactly. Why it was so difficult for other people to use their powers on him. I especially like the ethereal powers.
I think it might be as simple in the case of Gene not being able to get in that he was so used to not letting people in. However, a counterpoint to that would be the Punisher, who she got in pretty easily.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's the best argument, really.
I love this movie, guys.
I
was
did
really
too.
good.
That's so good. We are
Were there
running short on
anything
time.
you didn't like about the movie? Still, after digesting.
Yeah, it wasn't long enough.
Yeah.
I wanted more.
I wanted a better post-credit scene.
Okay, let's talk about the post-credit scene, and then we can talk about like the ending of the movie. What do you guys think it means? Because I have strong theories.
I'm pretty sure I know.
Yeah,
I think it's
same.
setting
I'm
up
almost
for
certain. I
Battle
know.
World.
I think it is Battle World. I think that we're getting some version of Battle World that would be a Doctor Doom creation of multiple multiverses that are being fragmented and put into one place for a new continuity, which is already something that Marvel intends to create, a no longer multiversal but singular continuity with their MCU. So I think
Miles Morales.
No, I don't think it's Miles Morales. I saw some theories about that, but I was like, no, because that doesn't make any sense.
You don't think we'll get a live action Miles Morales?
No, I think we will at some point.
We will.
Yeah, but I
Sure.
don't think that's what this is hinting to.
So the Spidey Tracker, which is a real website, by the way, you can actually go.
That's really.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
and look at it. And they've
You're
got
about to hear me
like
type because
pictures.
I have a clicky keyboard.
You can look at pictures that people have taken.
That was so clicky. That was like a typewriter.
And then you can go like certain places in New York, and you can watch the trailer and see screenshots and stuff.
That's cool.
But yeah, they gave us very little up in the post-credit scene. It's just the Spidey Tracker goes out from the Earth, and you kind of see in space a ping of a Spider-Man sighting. So the interesting thing is that I saw that William was talking about was that some of the glitches and stuff that happen on screen maybe point to Spider-Verse type themes, that we could possibly be getting some sort of Miles Morales crossover.
So when it goes into
what
space, it like
glitches on the screen?
glitches, and it's like little red looking glitches.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
I
just the
totally
color of the
missed that.
glitches, and
Yeah.
it's a weak argument, but it's still interesting, I think, and kind of what I think probably is what it's pointing to. But yeah, I didn't know much about what you guys were mentioning with Doctor Doom. So
Yeah, my only comment on the post-credit scene is, one, I found it refreshing for it to basically be nothing, and two, I was expecting it to not be Spider-Man focused and it to be like Professor Xavier meeting Jean Grey at the bus stop at the Greyhound drop-off point.
she was
I
definitely
thought
going
that-
upstate.
I thought that's what it was going to be, was their way of spoiling who's going to play Professor Xavier in the new mutant stuff that they're going to do, or do like not necessarily spoiling it and just having him like wheel up in a wheelchair or something and say something but be off screen mostly. So I'm kind of mixed. If they were going to do that, that would have been kind of satisfying, but I do like that it was back to really just a tiny little Easter egg, and that was it. Not like mandatory
Also,
viewing
real
for
quick
future
side note,
movies.
about Sadie Sink and Jean Grey. Did you guys notice that she was breathing for him
Yes.
in the hospital?
Yeah. So we can
cool.
kind of get into that, into the ending,
Nice.
What do
if
you mean?
want. So
Like, I
when-
know she was keeping
when
him
he's-
alive.
Yeah, when he's in the hospital bed and he's breathing, it cuts to her and she's like physically inhaling and inhaling and exhaling,
Nice.
and it like corresponds with him breathing.
I
in the
didn't pick up
hospital.
on
so
that.
It's like she's
Yeah.
keeping him alive by making his body work.
yeah, until they
That's
could get him
cool.
stitched up.
I didn't understand that part. It was like, I don't
Peter found
remember
himself in
her
a
having
girl.
like I can heal you things, at least not before she's the Phoenix, but I was just going to kind of like gloss it over as magic things. That's way cooler though. I like that a lot.
I love that. So when Sadie Sink as Jean Grey freezes everyone within a 1 mile whatever radius of the island she's on, there's theories out there that when she was doing that and after she had the encounter inside of Peter's mind with Aunt May, you see shots of Ned and MJ, right? And we see that MJ is crying. And I didn't notice as much for Ned, but apparently Ned was kind of making an interesting face as well that was contorted in a way that suggests that something might have been happening to him while they were frozen like that. And then afterwards, we see MJ clutching onto her Black Dahlia necklace on the rooftop of the school as if she knew something about it, that there was some connection that he never mentions the necklace in the movie, but it seems to suggest that something is unlocking a memory of where that came from. And then we have the interaction with Ned. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Not my favorite scene, but probably in the top 2 or 3 scenes with Ned. Yeah, that was great at the end. And with that, I don't think he remembers who Peter is. I think he is correlating MJ saying that Spider-Man's name is Peter to him there. However, I think he does realize that, oh, I know this person. I just don't know how, because of the handshake, like the muscle memory. So I think that's what Jean Grey did, was breaking something inside so that way they realize that they're missing something. They just can't quite put the pieces together of what that is. And I think that will eventually slowly unravel.
Like intentionally? You think she did that intentionally?
Yeah, I think she did it intentionally, because when she was in Spider-Man's mind, she figured out what was happening, and I think that she was attempting to try to help him.
Huh. I hadn't thought of that at all.
The tears
That's interesting.
Are also, I believe, I could be completely wrong about this, but I think the tears coming out of MJ are after she sees Aunt May and has that whole scene with her.
It's almost simultaneous. They're cutting back and forth between the city, and when they cut to MJ, it is in that scene. So I'm almost positive.
My theory is that she was breaking down some of the barriers in the people's minds, and they don't know what they're missing, but they know they're missing something, and so they're starting to put some pieces together.
Interesting. Yeah, Morgan, you talked about this scene already. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah. When I first watched it, I thought the same thing about Ned. It's just making the connection between how the word Peter that was used. And as I've thought more about the themes of this movie, that's what's convinced me, specifically the themes of this movie, that Ned does remember him, because of the themes of friendship and community in ways that are done so well here. I think the intent is that he's remembering him, but I could absolutely see how it's also oh yeah, she said that his name was Peter before he went out the window. So I could see either way. I'm really hopeful that he's actually, I think it would be so much more meaningful if their friendship is stronger than a spell that changed
he's also
the multiverse.
Slightly magic, so that would make
That's
sense.
true. He also,
I think
that's a really good point, actually, because they made that connection before.
Yeah, I don't think that he doesn't remember. I think he's starting to remember. I just don't think him saying Peter was putting the connection together. That makes sense. But again, with the muscle memory, with the handshake, I think he's realizing, oh, like, I know Spider-Man. Spider-Man's name's Peter. This is him. Mm-hmm. And he's starting to put that connection together, which probably would further unravel the memories. But I don't think he knows exactly yet, but I think he's starting to.
I completely agree. Solely based on the way that he said Peter.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a strong enough reaction to, oh my gosh, you're my friend Peter, that I have forgotten. But it is a connection that's being made on top of the muscle memory. Yeah. And I think the performance of Ned showed exactly what it was.
Yeah, I could see it going either way, that it was just a connection or an unlocking of his previous memories of Peter. Either one, I think, could be the answer, and we just kind of got to wait to see in the next movie which one the result is. But I love the idea that Doctor Strange's multiverse bending magic was to make people forget, and that dealt with the mind and the nervous system of the body still remembers and still responds to those same inputs in a way that jogs the memory, because there's so much reality that's based in that concept that we just continue to discover more and more how much. Yes, I mean, not, I don't think necessarily that some of the spiritual mystic things of you have memories in other parts of your body than your brain are true, but the sense, the concept at its core of sense memory and your nervous system understanding things that your brain can't yet or have blocked or those sorts of things is so cool and seems just true. And so them pulling that in here and saying, yeah, it's even stronger than the Sorcerer Supreme's multiverse bending magic is
No longer
sweet.
the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah, he's
by
not
the
the
way.
Sorcerer.
Well, yeah.
But
I mean,
also,
I could make another
be
book
Wong.
reference here since we. but to talk for what David just said, just read "The Body Keeps the Score" by Dr. Vanderkolk, and it talks all about
I
that.
think,
Yeah,
but also,
good rec.
even if he doesn't necessarily remember everything about him, I think it's a good indication that they will continue to be friends after this.
Mhm.
And he
Yeah.
finally
Yes.
does have someone, because they do mesh so well and their personalities are very similar. And we see that with the scene with him in in their apartment where they act like nothing's, like, it just seems like normal.
Yep.
So even though he might not remember everything yet, if he ever does, I think you could see it in Spider-Man's face too. He's like, okay, finally, I've got somebody again. Like,
Yeah.
he knows that this interaction is going to lead to, even if he doesn't remember everything, an inevitable friendship again.
Again, I
So
have
the-
to shout out the fact that they didn't take the easy way out and have them get their memories back. This is so much more meaningful. It's because their friendship transcends whatever happened to them, and they can become friends again, and that doesn't matter. And I loved it. Absolutely.
Yeah,
love that.
the only question is really going to be going forward, does he remember being the man in the chair before, or is it just him being the man in the chair in the future? But they're definitely back together either way.
But either way, he's the man in the chair again.
Yes,
That's right.
which is great.
Well, I love that he. I really like that he doesn't restore his relationship with MJ in the same way.
Yeah.
I think that worked out really well for this movie to not only make that end scene so impactful. That's my favorite scene of the entire movie is the end. But because I think it makes more sense for MJ's character as somebody that does not remember. Like, of course, this makes sense, and I think that you need some on and off again experiences to get the real Spider-Man and MJ, or Peter and MJ dynamic anyway, but for not silly reasons. And I think that's what this is giving us.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay.
Everyone,
Time
I
for
was
ratings.
curious.
thinking about your ratings, guys.
Go ahead, Morgan.
Oh, what is the rating system?
You pick
Um,
it. Pick your own.
Yeah. So
Like out of how many?
usually we do out of 10, right?
10,
Yeah.
yeah, out of 10, yeah.
Okay.
What were you going to say, Morgan?
I was curious if anybody had any theories that they were convinced were going to happen in this movie that did not.
No, for me, only because I intentionally tried to stay away from most things about the movie. I did accidentally watch the full first trailer that came out,
Mhm.
and then I said that was a mistake, and I didn't watch anything else about it. I didn't want to know anything. I wanted to go in completely blind with no expectations, and I, for the most part, did that. And, well, okay, because of the trailer that I saw with the black eyes,
Mhm.
I did kind of assume we were getting symbiote somewhere.
Mm.
I'm
And
glad
that
they
didn't work,
did.
and that
This
wasn't
was
there.
better.
So there was
that's
that.
better. Yeah. Okay.
My only assumption going in that didn't happen is kind of a bugaboo of mine with the greater MCU of that. We were talking before about how interconnected and how you have to have watched 27 things to understand this one movie. This was the opposite of that in watching the Daredevil Born Again show that is just canon. Like there was a time where that part of the Netflix universe was not canon, but it is now. And it's that 4-year time period. They don't address ever the like year and a half long Kingpin saga where he's the governor of New York and throwing everything out the bus and rounding up all vigilantes, and even has the Punisher in a cage at one point. And he does mention something about the spider real briefly in the TV show, but they had a flash montage of 4 years and they couldn't finally make it be like, yeah, New York's number one hero was actually somehow around there. But, you know, I get it. You can't afford having Tom Holland in the Daredevil TV show, even for a brief cameo. And that's just not reasonable to ask. I'm cool with that. But just like this, if you set the scale to be the entire city is dealing with this thing and is under like lockdown for a time period, but Spider-Man did never know or interact with that whole thing, it's dumb. And I don't like that at all.
Yeah, there wasn't really anything that I had theorized other than the symbiote that got left behind in No Way Home.
I remember thinking that just the theme that I expected for this movie was going to involve like isolation, based on where the last one ended. So I was thinking the symbiote would make so much sense, or like Mr. Negative, or anything that has any sort of like playing on somebody's own internal struggle, which we got with just his own spider, potential for man spider or whatever he would have become.
And you called that when No Way Home was out.
I said it would be one of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be something that's about his internal struggle. But I didn't get the villain, well, not really the antagonist, right? But yeah.
Well, how could you have known they were going to bring in a mutant?
Oh, of course,
from X-Men?
of course.
Yeah,
that would have been the wildest.
Shot.
If you had pulled
You're
that
really
out of the
calling your
air,
shot.
I would have immediately been like, you're Kevin Feige.
I do wonder if the development of the inhibitor technology is going to be important for future storylines involving the X-Men.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
That's my only complaint about the movie. My thing about the New York stuff, that's a complaint about the MCU, not this movie. My only real concern about the movie is, yes, we're deep into the MCU's evolution, but we haven't even actually introduced mutants yet, and we already have a universal inhibitor created. That seems like a huge problem. Or just narratively for them to now introduce the mutants into that. So I don't like that.
I'm very interested in how they do it. I'm excited.
Now
about
Peter
it.
might have to deal with the guilt of being the one who created that.
Yeah, which is something
Interesting.
that Peter would experience in most
True.
of his movies.
Yeah.
Well,
All right, William,
guys,
rate it.
I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10 universal power suppression chips.
Dang it. I was going to.
You took mine.
We're all going to do that one.
Well, you guys started talking about it at the end. I was like, crap, you're already using my thing.
I had that one since before we even started recording as mine.
Well, guess
Come
what?
on.
I went first.
Yeah, you did. Huh.
Okay, I got mine. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 castle grunts.
Oh, we didn't even talk about the scene at the end where he was going like, oh,
And we're not going to.
It was so good.
That was
That was the
amazing.
stupidest part of the movie and also so funny.
It fit, which it shouldn't have, but it did.
Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead, David.
sorry.
I have two, so I want to make sure that you get one.
Well, you might have to give me your second one. You go. Yeah.
I'm going to give it I want to give it a 10 I think I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10 black irises. Honestly, like I can't
so
find
good.
anything wrong with this movie.
I know.
can't.
I
Like, I mean,
should've given
10
it a
is
10, but
there is nothing you would change.
There's nothing
there's
I would
really
change
not
about
anything
this
I would
movie.
change about it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
fine.
an amateur hour first.
I mean, I
Yeah.
could think of small changes.
I think everything that was in this
Nice.
movie worked very well with everything else in the movie. I mean, every detail I thought was fantastic, and I think even the stuff that we didn't get explanations on, we will eventually, and it will play a large role in Spider-Man's story. And
Nice.
this was the best Spider-Man movie I've ever seen, and it's going to be pivotal to the rest of his story, unlike the other three. That I mean, this is, like I said, this is the re-origining of Spider-Man.
Maybe that's why it's called Brand New Day.
Yep.
Because-
Whoa.
Oh, I just
I mean,
got it.
they all. I mean, every time. I remember every time I was like, "Oh, there's double entendres in every single one of these," and I hadn't even considered it for this one yet.
Oh, that was actually a revelation you just now had that I
I
mocked.
really didn't think
I'm
about
sorry.
it until just now.
Yeah, I'm not going to give it a 10. I'm going to give it a 9. A 9 out of 10 scared Frank Castles because
No. Back it up. Small potatoes.
9 out of 10.
Oh, that is a good
Measly
one.
potatoes.
No, but I did because I hadn't called that out yet. I did like this is the first time we've ever seen that this version of the Punisher genuinely scared. And that was cool when he's just like unloading on the Hulk and then it flings something at him and starts charging and you see on his face abject terror. That was good. He needed to be
It's about
put
time
in his place
to
a little
give
bit.
Frank Castle some abject terror.
Yes.
That's from the outside and not the inside.
But yeah,
he hasn't
9
been
out of
through
10
enough.
for
That's
me.
fine.
they share that in common.
9 out of 10 scared Frank Castles. Oh man, yeah. I immediately after we got out, Abby and I were both like, we need to go watch that again.
Yeah.
Like it was that good. And I can't say more good things about it. And if you haven't seen it, you definitely shouldn't be listening to this.
Watch it.
But yeah, go watch it
Because if you haven't seen it yet, you're
and
not
then
a
go
real
watch
fan.
it again. Yeah,
Anyway, I'll say it.
I've been looking up Spider-Man merch. My
Oh.
office might be Spider-Man themed soon.
Also, I loved that they had the Hand in so much marketing, and that was an established villain that they could use from the Daredevil series. And then it was just a MacGuffin, like not at
Strange.
all.
Yeah.
I liked that
one
a
of the
lot.
best fight scenes was
Mhm.
with the hands.
Yeah.
I am not convinced that they're actually working for damage control. I think they're spying in some way because it just doesn't make sense to me.
They were acting
True.
kind of shady the whole time.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll find out more in Daredevil where Spider-Man doesn't exist when Elektra shows up next season.
So can't wait for the next one. We're what, like 5 to 10 years away from?
Yeah. I hope.
I would
not,
say,
man.
my guess is
That'd be so
3.
sad.
They are slowing down their production for their large scale projects intentionally for quality. So,
Mhm.
which I think is ultimately a good thing.
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quality over
I'll work with
quantity
that.
for sure. If they can keep pumping out Marvel movies that are this quality in both writing and directing and cinematography and acting, then yeah, slow it down. Everybody on this did such a great job. Morgan, thank you for jumping in, man. I
Yeah.
really appreciate you being on this episode.
Absolutely.
I actually completely forgot that you were on our review for the last Spider-Man movie. So that's
Same.
worked out
Funny.
brilliantly. I think
That's when I show
awesome. Yeah. He comes out of the shadows
What?
Like a
Did someone say
mutant.
Spider-Man movie?
like a mutant
I'll rip
DNA.
the fan right out of my ceiling so it won't click. So we can...
I'll see if I can leave that in too. Thank you
Yeah,
guys for
some passion
listening.
effects.
Do some sound effects in DaVinci Resolve. Thank you guys for listening and watching the podcast. If you don't know, we are on Spotify. The full video, you can watch us yapping on Spotify. So if you want to get in contact with us, though, you can email us info@amateurhourpod.com.
And if you would like to support us financially, you can buy some merch at amateurhourpod.com.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.